Hey everyone, from jousting to bear baiting, find out what brutal games medieval people played and how they were both similar to and scarier than our modern extreme sports. Welcome back to the channel. Here, today we're taking a look at some of the most intense competitions and activities medieval people used to do for fun. So grab your helmet, put on your chainmail, because we're about to travel back in time to an era where the only rule in their games is there are no rules. Brutal Game 1, Jousting, when losing meant flying off a horse. In the era when kings ruled and castles stood tall, there was a spectacle known as jousting. Ever dreamed of hurtling towards your opponent at full gallop? Well, these knights did, lances held high, ready to shatter the opposition. But here's the kicker. This wasn't some made-up competition. Oh no, this was the real deal. Two armored knights, looking like they just stepped out of a history book, would charge at each other, aiming to knock the other off their horse. Talk about a test of skill, bravery, and balance. But don't think for a second it was all flash and no crash. These knights were decked out in heavy armor, making it harder to move than your average TikTok dance routine. The goal was simple. Knock your opponent off their mount without falling yourself. Easier said than done. And unlike today's sports with their fancy equipment and training, these medieval athletes relied on their skill and a bit of luck. But the real question is, why did they do it? Well, besides the obvious bragging rights, jousting was a chance for knights to show off their skills, win prizes, and maybe, just maybe, get noticed by the king. After all, being a royal knight was the ultimate status symbol. But for those brave souls who lost, well, they had to pick themselves up and dust themselves off literally. No ambulance to call here. Brutal Game 2, Mêlée Tournaments, the first battle royales. If jousting wasn't chaotic enough for you, buckle up because we're about to take it to the next level. Imagine a mashup of a medieval battle and a modern-day battle royale. That's right. We're talking about mêlée tournaments where instead of battling it out with lances, knights went all out with swords, axes, and maces. These warriors weren't just fighting for fun. Nope, they were competing to prove who was the best of the best. It was like a giant game of tag where the only way to win was to be the last one standing. Sounds intense, right? Well, it gets better or worse depending on how you look at it. These melees weren't exactly organized affairs. At first, there were no rules, no referees, just pure adrenaline-fueled chaos. It was every man for himself, and the fight went on until someone gave up or, well, couldn't go on anymore. Imagine the scene. Knights clad in shining armor, crashing into each other with wooden weapons, the crowd roaring with excitement as the fighters hacked and slashed their way to victory. Now that's a sight you won't see anywhere else. But hold on a minute. Mêlée tournaments weren't all about brute strength. They also tested skill, strategy, and yes, even a bit of luck. A well-timed block could turn the tide of a battle, as could a lucky hit. And let's not forget the importance of stamina. But if jousting had no losers, then what happened to those who didn't win? Simple, they kept fighting until someone did. And when it comes to medieval sports, there's only one winner, but there are plenty of sore losers. For our next game, we're swapping weapons for whips and entering the world of bear baiting. It's not your average sport, but then again, this is the Middle Ages. Bear baiting was a popular pastime where trained bears would be set loose in an enclosed space and whipped around by spectators for their amusement. Yeah, you heard that right. The idea was to get the bear to attack the bait, which usually consisted of dogs or even people. Just imagine the sight of a large angry bear chasing its prey while crowds cheer it on. It might sound cruel, but this was a favorite pastime for many, including Queen Elizabeth I. And that leads us to our next brutal game, the Tourney of the Hanged. Hold up. Why are those knights fighting under a tree with people hanging from it? What's the story behind this strange choice of scenery? Well, it all happened during the reign of King Henry V. In 1415, a tournament was held under a tree lined with the bodies of criminals who had been hanged for their crimes. Talk about a reminder of what happens to those who break the law. Some believe this gruesome backdrop was meant to remind the knights of the consequences of dishonorable conduct. After all, a knight's reputation was everything. That's it for today's video. Tell us in the comments which game you'd try first. We'll see you next time. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more fun facts and adventures, don't forget to subscribe and follow our channel. Stay tuned for more exciting content.